Keown.
And I'm Michael Scott, still.
Oh, well, good. Well, you're pretty still. You moved your head a little bit there. Welcome to a beautiful location. Last week we kind of gave the answer before we gave you a chance to look. If I kind of move to my right or left a bit, and Michael moves to his left a bit, that kind of gives it away. Let's just say last week we were in Lurgan Park. We've come to a slightly larger lake situation this week. Leave it with you for a wee while as you figure out where we are. But welcome indeed. How's your week been, Michael?
Busy, very, very busy. More from a social aspect than a work aspect, unfortunately. Well, work's been busy too. We've a lot of stuff on.
You can stop pretending with me. I mean, we're not going to take you to task here. You work hard and I needn't say you play hard.
I don't play too hard, but this last week or so has been particularly playful. With the guys over from Coventry, who we featured in your Lurgan last week. So I was out with them on Saturday night.
And when you got home, did your missus send you to Coventry?
No. I didn't go back home. I stayed at my mate's house.
Oh dear.
But, no, it was all good. And then I was out at a concert down in Belfast on Saturday. And I'm out again this Sunday, so yeah, I'm going to be in the good books.
It's a tough life. It
is. But yes, your Lurgan's still ticking along.
Well, last week I had I'm going to use the word pleasure here, and it's the wrong word. I had the gift of going to watch Armagh not turn up at a football match. I turned up, but I don't think the rest of the team did. So we leave that behind for now. Let's look at the working week, as it were, the stories that have been making it, and later on we'll have some of the videos that I've been engaged in this week, and some of those visual stories too. Where do we start?
Well, we've had a lot of court and council stuff as usual on your Lurgan. I suppose one of the bigger stories we've had this week, the one that's got a bit of a reaction, is a story about the child who visited South Lake Leisure Centre and ended up having to get out of the pool because their leg had turned blue because it was so cold. Now, we're led to believe, of course by the time you listen to this it could all be fixed, that the council were doing their bit to try and sort that situation out. We're turning the temperature up a little bit, but we were still receiving complaints. Certainly it's this morning, it's Friday we're recording this on, of course, that the pool was still a bit cold. So, I mean, not a pleasant experience for any child, to go in and be too cold in a swimming pool,
but frightening when circumstances make it the way that it is.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, we're at, well, I can't say where we're at now, but let's just say people go into this area behind us to swim under controlled situations, but they realise beforehand this is not a heated pool that they're going into. I'm talking about the dunkers, because I can't say where, well I can, the Loch Ness dunkers. We're down at Oxford Island here, and they go in regularly, and they have time limits very much in what they do.
Yeah. I fair play them. I come to doing that. I can't swim. That's my confession.
Well, that'd be a good reason not to go in swimming.
I wouldn't be going in anyway. But fair play to all lads, because they brave it in all conditions, from what I understand.
And yet it's in controlled conditions. Well, there'll be more on that story as it develops.
Yes, of course.
Continuing through the week.
One other story I'm focusing on, Donna, one you actually did a story on yourself, was Shackle Graveyard. Maybe you want to talk a bit about that. It must have been going on down there.
Yeah, it hasn't moved on as far as I'm aware. We went down to hear the story of the fact that the graveyard has been closed for what, now on 22, 23 weeks now. The original suggestion was that it was closed for safety purposes, for assessment by the local council, the ABC Council, and will be opened within 6 weeks, or at least until further notice. Well, the until further notice is much further than the 6 weeks, and those, I don't want to use the word protagonist, but those, the friends of Shankle Graveyard, and Isabel Hylands in particular, who's the chairperson of that, spoke to me about the, you don't want to use pejorative terms, but the disappointment of lack of knowledge and lack of movement. Really, really frustrating, because they want to do things, they want to see things change, or they want to see who's responsible, who's not responsible, and they're just not getting the answers.
Yeah. It's a very frustrating situation for them, and hopefully it'll be resolved very, very soon. Now, we did ask Armagh City, Bamburgh and Craigavon Borough Council for a response. We are still waiting on that response, and the questions were asked I think on Monday. We first published that story, so a week on, and still nothing from the council. So
Well, let's get a little flavour of what Isabel actually had to say. And the ideal situation for you might be, because there are precedents set where council can purchase land and then offer it in whatever way necessary to a particular group or organisation.
Uh, it would be ideally um, a trust would be set up to look after the graveyard. Uh, but that's something that needs to be investigated a lot more thoroughly and a lot more discussion with council. It may be that council would not tolerate that for 1 minute, so it's something that has to be discussed.
What's a good time scale for you to get this thing moving?
Well, to get the graveyard open again and start to do the tours, the tours actually are to educate people as to the value of the site and the importance it is in the history of the town. And the more people who come on a tour, learn about it, go and talk to their friends, the more people who understand what we're trying to do. But we can only work at this minute in time, we can only work at council's pace. And to me, that seems to be dead slow and stop.
So there you have it. It's a continuing story, and when there is breaking news, and that certainly will be bringing you the response if one comes.
And yes, as I was just about to say, should the council issue a response, then certainly we will carry it on our website.
So other things happening. That was a pretty big story, I reckon, Jerry.
Yeah, another story that we sort of touched on last week, but we'll go back over it this week. And we had a good response as well. It was your interview with Pat McGibbon.
Yeah, interesting chap, lovely chap, doing good work. Lots of challenges in his life, despite the high heights that he came to, many challenges that he worked through, and has brought those skills and abilities and learned experience to very much to bear in his regular daily life, in the sense that he's in coaching, but he's also in other various activities involved with mental health and well-being and the promotion of that. Very interesting chap, and as you say, good response. Maybe we'll take a wee bit of extract from that.
My issue was when I moved back home, was my passion for football. It wasn't physically, you were coming to the end of your career and you were then going into part-time football, and you had to decide what you wanted to do as a real job, and that was difficult, because at Manchester United it's stability, at Wigan Athletic it's stability. All of a sudden, when I moved back home with Bernadette and the children, then there was quite a bit of instability. It's 6 house moves. I didn't know what I wanted to do in terms of a career, even though I had a ready-made job as such with physiotherapy, but I wasn't passionate enough about it, and it took an awful lot of soul searching and instability to then go into the mental health sphere, which quite recently I did a mental health and wellbeing diploma, but I'm now able to link the physical to the mental and emotional well-being. So in a roundabout way, as much as it's been a really tough journey since I moved back home in 2002, it's also been a great learning experience, and it has been experience that has taught me, I suppose, the value of mental health and well-being.
And there is a lot out there that is based on scholarly work, but if you have that experiential, the experience itself behind you, that gives you a deeper depth of understanding, would you say? Not necessary to be able to teach it, but it is a benefit, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that one of authenticity, because really I watch people, and obviously I do mental health related talks, whether it's in the public domain or whether it's privately, and I always said this, one of my biggest fears was to go up and publicly speak, because but I always said I needed to understand what I was speaking about, And so when it comes to the experience of it, I always say there's plenty of sales people out there, you know, but it's okay talking the talk, but can you actually walk the walk? And that's really where this has come from. It has taken time, but that's where I suppose the authenticity comes from as well.
So lots of good things to say there, and lots of positive things. In times when people are so negative, so kind of caught up and closed within themselves that they're fearful of speaking, and anyone, I reckon, I believe, who's able to take that mantle on of speaking about it, not for any self-empowerment or self-aggrandizement, as they would call it, but just to help others. The value of that, of talking about mental health and well-being. I'm not putting you on the spot now, Michael. It's maybe not a subject that many of us are used to talking about, and subsequently we're fearful of the whole idea and arena.
No, I think you're right. Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, we've all had our problems with mental health, I'm sure. I mean, even during lockdown, I mean, I struggled with mine, to be honest. I'll be honest with you, I actually ended up having a panic attack one day, which I had never experienced before. Just one day, I think there was a lot of things going on at the time, both professionally and, well, not personally as such, but there was definitely a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, just got up me one day, and I just froze. One day, I was actually driving to do a job for your Lurgan. What was I going? South Lake Leisure Centre. It was Children in Need Day, and I couldn't physically get into the car. Whatever had happened to me, it was bizarre. But do you know what? I think everyone needs to give themselves the headspace, and if they are struggling, you know, go out and get the help. I mean, that's what I did. I just spoke to people I know, and they sort of told me, you know, you need to do this, that, and the other. But sometimes you don't really want to hear, but you know it in your head. So yeah, look after yourselves. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, I appreciate your honesty and your openness about it. And
do you know what? I think people do need to talk about these things. I really do, because, you know, if the more people talk about it, the more people are going to be aware that they might be in a problem, or might have a problem on their hands. So,
and the talking about it opens it up for the opportunity to people to intervene, if you like. Sometimes you need to, almost to be pressed to want to talk, but even in that itself, I mean, it's a subtle thing. It's not a question of, oh, you're talking about it, you're going to be okay. There are directions and routes that you can be pointed towards.
If you talk about how you're feeling from the outset, I mean, these things can maybe be prevented, because I mean, the signs were probably there for me, and people were telling me that I had changed and I was stressed out, or appeared to be stressed out, and I didn't really pay any attention to it. So yeah, if people are talking to you, listen to them.
Well, I'm talking to you, and you're listening, and I'm listening to you, so we're on the right track here.
I think so.
So we've just heard, and I know you're maybe not anticipating this as a story. In the background, you would have heard this if you were listening extremely closely. There was a large lorry that was collecting refuge, I suspect.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I thought they weren't here. I thought they were off.
Because
on strike.
Yeah, there's been a strike. I'm not sure the union involved. I think it's Unite is the main striking union, but perhaps there's a collection. And they were on strike, and bins have been affected, collections particularly.
Bins have been affected, parks have been affected, numerous council-related services, but also within the education sector as well, there's been services affected. The buses were almost affected, but that was resolved at the last minute. So yeah, it's been a lot of disruption. We've had a few stories on that over the last few weeks about the build up to that and what's going to happen. There was a special council meeting on Monday afternoon regarding that, which we had a story on as well. I believe Sinn Féin councillors walked out of that meeting because they wanted to be held confidentially, obviously because of the employees.
A disclosure of information that they felt was more than sensitive, I think.
Yes,
is that the argument?
So yeah, you can read all about that on our website. It was a very interesting meeting from what I understand. I didn't actually get here it myself, but the report certainly seemed very interesting. So yeah, hopefully, I think the action is due to end on midnight on Monday, midnight Sunday, something like that. Over the weekend anyway, over the bank holiday. So, but there could be more action following on from that, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it over the next few weeks.
I suppose the concern from the outside is, and this is where the press are kind of, you can't win or lose.
I'm used to that anyway.
Yeah, because if you report something, the immediate heckles go up. Oh, you shouldn't be reporting it, that the sensitivity involved in that.
Yeah.
But the very nature of the whole idea of journalism is to ask the questions that can't be apparently there for people to find out about. So you've got a duty to do some of the times, and I suppose that's where the frustration comes on the other side. Well, they're asking questions that we don't really want to let anyone know. I mean, there's good reason and logic in many reasons why they shouldn't, particularly bodies or whatever, but there's so much information that's being held back and for no apparent reason.
Yeah. And I think I get a lot of people get frustrated with our line of work, journalists, for some of the things we do publish. We had people commenting this week about one of our headlines, and the headline about split in the council. There was an argument that it wasn't split because it was still a majority and stuff like that. But the best analogy I can give, Donna, is if I buy a pie, right, and I take a quarter of that pie out for my tea. Number one, I'm going to be very hungry or very full, and number two, the pie has still been split. So I mean, the headline was technically right. I suppose I can see where they're coming from. Wasn't 50-50 split, but no. But and then there's court cases as well that we cover, and people go, well, "Why are you covering that? It's not that big a deal." But in the day, the courts are there. They're public record. Like, whether we cover them or not, it's still public record. So yeah, we get a lot of that.
It's a strange one because sometimes people say, isn't it bad enough that these people went to court? Well, some of the reasons why courts are there is that they have to be seen to be bringing justice.
Yep, absolutely.
And then they have to be seen and reported on in bringing justice. It's a no-win situation.
No,
sometimes.
it's absolutely not. But I think a lot of journalists develop thick skins, and we just get on with it because.
But your skin's looking good in the sun today.
Yeah, I'm sort of squinting a wee bit as well. The sun's in my eyes.
Are you going to tell me, true Northern Ireland style, it's beautiful, but
I am. Do you know what? Last week I was here, or I was with you in Lurgan Park, and I complained about not having a coat. I didn't complain, I just said I wish I had brought a coat because it was cold. Today I've come down here, I put a jumper on thinking this is Northern Ireland we're talking about. The sun's out, it's still too cold, and I'm regretting wearing the jumper. So again, much like the weather, or much like me and my career, you can't win with the weather.
well, let's look to a few other things then in the story wise.
Yeah, one of the other stories actually that we covered, Johnny McNabb spoke to the organisers of the new football team, Sands United FC, which is being set up in Lurgan. That's being set up for fathers and relatives of those who have lost children through stillbirth, which actually is a very timely subject because obviously there was big news a week or two ago when Cristiano Ronaldo lost a child through stillbirth, which is terrible, and obviously our sympathies about anybody who's suffered that. But this team hopes to bring people together, those family members, fathers, uncles, whatever, in the hope that they will be able to come united, speak together, play a bit of football, get a bit of exercise as well, get them out, get them moving, get them active, and have a bit of fun as well. A bit of team spirit, shall we say? And they all have one common bond, and they can all speak to each other, which I think is a fantastic idea.
It's back to that conversation we had at the start. They're
Absolutely.
able to speak in among their peers, as it were, among those who have understanding, of a deeper understanding perhaps than any of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
really good project, and we hope to hear more from those folks, I'm sure, over time. So that's been a big story. We have a little extract of that, and we'll give you some of that now.
I had originally played for Dungannon Sands United, so it helped me a lot. So I thought, since I'd want to bring it to my hometown to support other men who has went through the same grief as I went through, like losing children and obviously uncles and brothers and all and friends, who are affected, So I wanted to do something for the community as well, to let them know they're just not alone. There's other people out there has went through the same thing, and it's okay to talk about it. rather,
obviously,
rather than not getting support at all.
true, and obviously, men, we're both lads, and I think chatting about things, men find it a bit of like a taboo, or they're feared to chat. But I suppose it's a group where men can go and discuss what obviously they've been through.
Yeah, they can discuss and have confidence, they can tell people and all, where they might be able to talk to their partner or their wife and stuff, or family members about it, where they might find it easier to talk to men, because obviously us men will not judge them and stuff, because obviously we've been there and we want to support them as much as we can, and this is what this team, San United FC Lurgan, this is what it's all going to be about, to support each other and build up a good friendship, that everybody can talk about what experience they had, how they felt when it happened and stuff.
And thank you to Johnny for your contribution to this podcast. I know you've made the contribution already, Johnny, but we appreciate it too. Thank you for that.
Good man, Johnny. We like you. You'll keep your job.
Good to know. I'm not going to ask that question about myself in this case. One of the stories that I covered during the week was here in this area. In fact, at the Lough Neagh Discovery Centre, it's just in front of us here where we stand, and it was as part of the South Lough Neagh Regeneration Group, and one of the projects was led by Louise Taylor. Louise has been a project heritage officer for the group for a number of years, and she's also an arts creator. She creates art through tapestries and the like, and she had one particular project that looked at, I think, a lot of the passings that happened during COVID and the many people who were lost in the various communities along the Lough shore.
Tapestry, which to me, interestingly, has everything in it from a Zen garden through Celtic mythology into kind of Neolithic shapes.
So the whole concept began with numbers and it turns into a piece of art. That's a remarkable thing in itself. There's a lot of symbolism in this. Is that purely accidental, or would you say the algorithms have conspired?
No, definitely the algorithm has just worked it out. It is actually an evolving algorithm. I'll get it up. The gentleman Charles, he whatever algorithm that he produced, it's evolving. So I'll let you see it in action and how it'll just kind of. It's like on a loop and it's great, but yes, I've just taken a still from it, which I thought was quite representative of the local area. I've selected, there was 4 wee strands, so each represents kind of just our landscape and what you see. It's in black and white, the algorithm, but yeah, I kind of put my own wee flair to it too.
Now, the South Lough Neagh Regeneration Group have many other projects, and we hope to tap into them. One in particular is working with a lady in Banbridge who is a ceramicist, and they produce these wonderful pieces of ceramic work that reflects those losses that we talked about earlier, the losses of the people of the community here through COVID. Right along the bay shore, Barton's Bay, and over to Marry and back here to this area that we're in now, Derry McCash, Derry Traston. Really, really interesting, really, really very visual, so we hope to have more of that story. Did I hear you mention sport, by the way?
You did. We've had a lot of sport over the last few days. Obviously, starting off with the famous Lurgan Blues finally getting a win. Not finally getting a win, getting another win. This time over their old rivals Portadown, so we had good coverage of that. Finally in the season was played yesterday, if you're listening to this on Sunday. Final league game of the season, of course, against Warrenpoint Down. Gary Hamilton was set to play his reserves in that game in order to keep his players fresh for the playoffs.